Princess Alenya hated the human on the third day, because Captain Elias Stone never bowed low enough, never praised her speeches, never let her walk through a doorway first. And once in front of half the court, he shoved her behind a pillar so hard her crown struck marble. The nobles gasped, her cheeks burned, and she raised her hand to dismiss him forever, until the window behind her exploded exactly where her heart had been. The blast left silver dust falling through the sunlight, guards shouting, servants crawling, and Elias standing over her with one arm raised against flying glass. Alenya stared at the smoking hole in the wall, then at the human who had bruised her shoulder and saved her life in the same breath. He did not apologize. That was the worst part. He only looked at the shattered window and said, "Sniper angle from the western prayer tower. Second shooter moving, stay low, princess." And somehow, his calm sounded even ruder than his shove. That was her first lesson. Human disrespect sometimes looked exactly like survival arriving before dignity could complain. Alenya had been raised in the luminous court, where danger wore silk and murder waited for invitations. Every movement was ceremony, every glance had rank. Every protector was trained to flatter before defending. Elias had arrived from Earth after 3 failed assassination attempts. A veteran with weathered hands and the social grace of a locked door, he switched her plates, canceled walks because birds had gone silent, and made her sleep in a servant room because her chamber had too many balconies. She told him he was unbearable. He answered, "Yes, Your Highness, but you are still breathing." The second attempt came during the Festival of Mirrors. When Alenya wore blue crystal and prepared to step onto Sacred Bridge before thousands, Elias stopped her at the arch. One hand against the stone, blocking the procession. "The bridge is wrong," he said. Alenya felt humiliation sharpen into anger. "You do not block a crowned princess during the blessing hour," she hissed. Elias crouched, touched the floor, sniffed his fingertips, and said, "No rain, but wet stone." The high priest demanded he move. Lord Varric called him an earthborn brute. Alenya almost agreed. Then Elias drew his sidearm and fired into the bridge chain. The crowd screamed, the chain snapped, and the mirrored walkway collapsed into the gorge, revealing acid charges beneath the glass. Silent, patient, waiting for her weight. Elias did not smile, did not gloat. He simply turned to her and said, "New route." That was when mockery began to taste like fear, because every insult she had thrown at him had landed beside a warning she had missed. Alenya began watching him after that, not with trust yet, but with suspicion aimed in a new direction. She noticed how Elias counted exits, touched walls near vents, watched hands instead of faces, stood too close in crowds, not to disrespect her space, but to make himself the easier target during a council meeting. He stepped between her and a visiting ambassador, before the ambassador bowed. Everyone groaned at his bad manners, then a poisoned needle clicked against armor hidden under his sleeve. The ambassador was dragged away, screaming innocence. Alenya turned on Elias. "How did you know?" He showed her the ambassador's left glove. To clean, no ceremonial dust. Everyone else looked at his jewels. Elias said, "I looked at what he forgot to fake." The final attempt came from someone she loved, which made it the most dangerous. Queen Mother Sarith invited Alenya to the Moon Chapel at midnight, claiming prayers before the succession vote. Elias said no before the message finished playing. "Absolutely not," Alenya snapped. "She is my mother," Elias replied. "Then she can meet you at noon, in public, with witnesses." She ordered him aside. He refused. She called him a paranoid barbarian, he said. "I have been called worse by people who lived because I ignored them for the first time." Alenya hated him because she feared he might be right. She went anyway. Slipping past him through an old royal passage she thought only her family knew. The Moon Chapel was cold, silver lamps floating above the altar. Her mother stood in mourning white. "Beautiful and still, my daughter," Sarith whispered. "The Empire needs obedience, not softness." Alenya saw guards in shadow. Not chapel guards, but Varric's men. Blades curved and quiet, her breath caught. Her mother kept speaking, as if regret could make betrayal gentle. Then the chapel doors burst inward, and Elias entered like a storm that had stopped pretending to be weather. He did not charge at once. He threw smoke canisters first. Killed the lamps, broke the moonlight, turned royal elegance into confusion. Alenya dropped as he had taught her without realizing she had learned. Varric's men struck at shadows. Elias moved with controlled force, disarming, disabling, driving them away from the princess. No wasted rage, no cruel flourish. Just the terrible efficiency of someone who valued life too much to decorate violence. Lord Varric seized Alenya by the wrist, bladed her throat, and shouted that Elias would not risk the princess. Elias lowered his weapon, breathing hard, blood at his brow, and said, "You are right." Then Alenya drove her heel into Varric's foot, twisted as Elias had shown her, and fell clear. Elias crossed the distance in one heartbeat, struck the blade aside, and pinned Varric against the altar until the guards arrived. At dawn, before the assembled court, Alenya stood beside Elias with shame in her throat. She looked at nobles who had laughed whenever the human interrupted ceremony, at priests who valued timing over truth, at guards who mistook politeness for protection. And she said, "Captain Stone has been accused of rudeness. I believed it too. Then he saved me from a window, a bridge, a needle, and my own blood. So from this day forward, anyone protecting a life in my court may be blunt before they are graceful." Elias finally bowed. Not deep, not pretty, but real. Alenya smiled faintly and said, "Do not ruin it by becoming charming." "Captain," he answered. "No danger of that, princess." Years later, Queen Alenya taught every heir the same lesson. Courtesy is precious, but survival is older. And when danger enters dressed as tradition, the person who seems rude may be the only one telling the truth fast enough. She once thought the human was insulting her, until she learned he had been standing between her and death from the beginning.